Welcome back to another episode of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast, powered by ISOFIT and Firefly Recovery. ISOFIT is my go-to for all things isometric strength training. For more on ISOFIT, be sure to check out ISO. Episodes like this are made possible by Firefly, the official recovery provider of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast. For more on Firefly, be sure to check out recoveryfirefly.com. This episode is powered by Dr. Ray Gorman, founder of Engage Movement. Learn how to boost your income without relying on sessions. Get a free training on the blended practice model by following at Ray Gorman DPT on Instagram. Frankie, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today, man. I mean, huge shout out to all of our past Old Bull guests real quick, from Katie to Ryan, to Hannah, to Audrey. I feel like I've gotten to know so many of your amazing partners that way. For people who haven't heard your name, or maybe they haven't heard the Old Bull Athletics and all the amazing stuff you're doing down in the Miami area, would you mind filling them in a little bit about who you are and all the great stuff you have going on?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Frankie Telfort. I'm the founder of Old Bull Athletics. I co-found with Katie Dabrowski. She's our head physical therapist and really on boots in clinic. She's like the breadth of Old Bull for us. I run more of like the operations and the vision setting, and more of like the sales and marketing side of things. But personally, we're going to be opening our third location in Q4 this year. We opened our first location in the Gables brick and mortar in 2018. Company started in 2015, so we've been operating for about 10 years now. We opened our second location in 2022. So I think over the last 10 years, we've done a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, when we were just getting connected here a few minutes ago, I think you guys are really setting the standard for what this combination of performance and rehab should be, and kind of the future of training and healthcare, if you will, that way. Where did this concept or idea start 10 years ago when you were just getting started in 2015? Where did the idea come from, and what did that look like for you guys?
Yeah. So my first year starting the company, started working out of a PT clinic that was kind of a still mill, a lot of patients in and out, borderline illegal activity with students working with patients. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to run my practice or my sessions one-on-one. And I was doing more of the strength and conditioning side of things, or pre-post operation side of things for strength and conditioning. So what they were saying was that the strength and conditioning on my side was getting people faster results after the surgery than the traditional PT that they had been going through, So they'd spent 8 months on a table, getting solid or heat pack or stim, and I'd spend, a cool 8 weeks, and they'd get more range of motion, they'd feel better, they'd be out of pain. So it almost created like a natural competition between me and the rest of the clinic. And the clinic owner wanted me out of there as fast as possible. So we cut that partnership, and I got brick and mortar in the Gables sooner after. So really where it stemmed from was, strength and conditioning really is healthcare. And we wanted to keep some element of PT within the training aspect of things, but we wanted everything to be one-on-one, right? So for me, navigating the system of not having employees at the time, I decided to rent my space out to a couple of different PTs that I thought were really good. Really started diving down the marketing and the operations side of things, and found a really good way to get a huge chunk of people that wanted that particular service in Old Bull. After a while, I was like, okay, well, we're generating X amount of dollars. I don't think I want to outsource this anymore. I want to bring this in-house and make it part of our brand. So we always offered it, but it wasn't in the direction of what it is today, right? So I met Katie because I've been looking for a partner for a while, not in this regard for PT. And me and her had a meeting, and we literally were saying the same thing. We haven't met each other before. And it was literally like we were saying one way, and then she would almost finish my sentence. And that's how close we were on the same path. So, I was like, look, this day before we marry, hang out for 3 months. I'm going to show you I'm the real deal, and vice versa. And then we can make a decision after that. So she hung out for 4 weeks, and she's like, no, I want to do this. So I thought that was really cool. What was wild about that was literally 4 or 5 months later, COVID happened. So, all of the momentum in the right direction, all that stuff kind of came to a halt. And I had some turnover, had to figure out some things in the in between time. Had a really nasty landlord. Had a really nasty landlord in the meantime. When we were trying to navigate the system, to the point where I'm sitting in my space. I have a 9-year-old daughter now. She was 4 at the time. Um, she's sitting at the front desk with her headphones on, watching routines. I'm like trying to do like the books and try to figure out what I'm going to do to figure out the usually the next few months of the shutdown for COVID. And my landlord walks in, fuming, and he started to yell at me. He's like, "I need to see your books. You're lying about not having money to pay this and that." And I'm like, I'm obviously you don't know how business works. You have a certain amount of cash flow. People have pre-allotted sessions. When we start back up again, I'm going to have to use some money to pay people with. I'm not trying to kill my business altogether. And also, the government's probably going to give us some aid. Like, how about we wait a little bit before, we just blow everything up. So he was very pissed about that. And, he left. What's wild about that is that same guy early last year, just went to jail for $93 million of fraud as a developer. Yeah, that's in the SEC. He is in prison. So, I mean, it kind of shows that character-wise, right? Like, I didn't know that at the time, but like, like if you're willing to yell at somebody in front of their 4-year-old daughter without like having a formal meeting or just talking about it like a human being, like, it's probably some other pressures coming from other places or, morals are a little off. But yeah, anyway, put our head down, decided to keep going. Fortunate time in that incident, I think, shaped and reshaped how we operated as a company. Because personally, I felt the need to own and operate from then there on. So when you have pressures that aren't necessarily serving you or are not as nice as they should be, we automatically started looking for places to operate out of and own right after, and then seeing like different ways to do so. So fast forward 5 months later, shot into space. This is currently where we're operating out of in our Gables location. We ended up buying in October 2020. Had a couple more months on that lease, so it was a good transition for build out, making it look the way we wanted to, and finally made our full move like mid 2021. Yeah. Pinecrest open, and then like I said, end of this year will be our third location.
To run it back, it sounds like everything started in 2015 when you were in one of those stereotypical PT mill clinics, for lack of a better way to put it. And it's so interesting to me that your clients were getting such good results, and that irritated the PT that owned the place at the time. Normally, we want results and we want good outcomes. So, in my mind, I'm just thinking of some backwards thinking. And it's one of those things I talk with people, Ray Gorman, a lot of times in particular, about this like rehab framework that has been developed in the country and who it's been built for and who it's meant to serve. And a lot of times the younger active individual is not in mind. It might work really well for a 70-year-old who's had lower back pain longer than I've been alive, but it doesn't always serve the younger active minded individual the best, unfortunately. And I think the other piece too is it's not just from a cost effective standpoint of what it looks like to pay for 50, 60, 70 rehab visits sometimes under an insurance model, but also the time component as well. A lot of times these individuals don't have the time to wait around and go to PT 2-3 times a week for that length of time. That way we need results and we need them quicker than ever in just this modern lifestyle that we live. So it sounds like you really found a solution to a problem that was plaguing so many individuals and continues to plague individuals to this day that way. I love how you mentioned as well that strength and conditioning is healthcare, and you really bridged that gap. And I mean, obviously, that's one of the core principles that I think makes you all so successful and allows you to get the results that you do with the people that you serve so quickly, is combining the two and bridging that gap. Earlier today, I was on a call with an individual and we were discussing in the athletic space and high performance teams. Sometimes there's disconnects that exist between S&C and rehab providers. And ultimately, we all need to do a better job, myself included, of going at those situations with high respect for one another and low ego. And the better we do that, the better the people that we serve are going to do that way. And obviously, it's easier when you have them all under one roof, all on the same team, working together with that common goal. I think you guys really mastered that. You did mention as well about, starting things up with Katie right around COVID time and kind of the storm that is COVID that way and what all came with that. There's a lot of individuals I've talked with in this business ownership, entrepreneurship space who unfortunately were not able to successfully navigate that time. And there was just so many different challenges and obstacles in their path that a lot of people didn't even know about until they have the conversation with them. I'm interested to hear more about how you all successfully navigated that turmoil time and came out on top, for lack of a better way to put it.
So 2020, obviously the shutdown happens in March. Obviously April happens and there's like a 3-month ordinance where everybody has to shut down. And then shortly thereafter, it was like, oh, this is only for non-essential companies, right? So like, technically speaking, with physical therapy being part of it, we, like, for lack of a better term, said that we were essential and decided to mask everybody up, make sure that we had plenty of disinfectant, cleaner. Really just create a space that people felt really comfortable, like having the temperature gauges, marketing. So, taking videos for people that might not feel comfortable coming back to the gym or even in that setting. So, and the other thing was we would have one person at a time working, which technically was myself at first. And then one became two and two became three as people started to get kind of stir crazy sitting at home. I really used the time off and the slow time off, to double down on our marketing and how Oboe was perceived. I created a crap ton of YouTube videos on how to use kettlebells at home, minimalistic equipment, calisthenics. Same thing on Instagram, literally just posting every single day about something positive and kind of just like getting through the time instead of letting the time kind of beat me up, So just putting your head down and like taking it day by day. And just knowing like, hey, like there is no option, like we won't fail. Like I won't let it happen, So, Katie and I, we really wanted to make sure that the company's perception of what we were doing wasn't sleazy. It wasn't done without regard or done without thought. We were operating within the rules of the time and the day. And I don't know if you remember, but when the restaurants reopened and everybody would walk in with their mask on and like sit down and take their mask off, like he's like, oh, okay, like just take a picture of this. You couldn't tell what year it was in, We tried to keep people's masks on the entire way through so people felt comfortable. And then, there's, as the rules changed again, we had to kind of conform with our clientele base. Florida was like, I don't know about Maryland, but like Florida was like wide open by the time the middle of 2021 happened, and like there was less people freaking out about stuff like that. But yeah, it truly, it was just persistence and like trying to make sure that we could operate with what people felt comfortable with, and really just survive the month. By the end of the year though, even with that 3-month shutdown, we ended up growing like 15% in sales from the year before, which is wild when you think about it, considering a 3-month shutdown. And then, the year thereafter, 100%. And then the year thereafter, if you're comparing it to that same COVID year, 200. So it's like, it's almost exponential growth since that time. Just got really efficient stuff that,
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. And the fact that you were able to see growth in a year when you were closed for 3 months out of the year is a huge testament to everything that you built and the frameworks that you implemented that way. And it sounds so interesting to me that you all doubled down on your marketing efforts first, because I think a lot of times when that COVID shutdown occurred, people used it as an opportunity to sit around at home and maybe take a little vacation, spend time with the family. They weren't really thinking about how can I optimize my framework and smash the thing to pieces and rebuild it stronger than it's ever been that way. And it's interesting too, because I talk with a lot of other providers and trainers and so on that way that really feel like marketing is a big obstacle for them and they haven't been able to crack the code on it. And, my simple advice to them, at least what we've done here in Maryland, has just been provide the best for the people that you serve, maintain the standard, customize it to them within reason. Obviously, we can't go as far as some people might want in the insurance-based model that we have, but we do the best we can for them. And I think they acknowledge that. And ultimately, we kind of relied heavier on the word of mouth side of things because it's kind of small town USA up here on the Eastern Shore that way. And that really served us well. I'm interested, did some of those kind of, principles carry over into your own marketing strategy during COVID that way? And where did you go to learn more about the marketing side, having that kind of like training, S&C rehab kind of background that way? Because again, I think that's a area that a lot of people realize they need, but don't know where to turn to for it.
Prior to this, I did a course called 10,000 Small Businesses through Goldman Sachs and one of the local community colleges in South Florida. So I had just graduated that December in 2019 from that program. So I had, I want to say like an 80-page growth plan, like a business plan, but like how to scale into what we wanted to do next. But it wasn't COVID solutions. So I had to literally scrap that entire thing and redo the whole thing with the new rules of COVID, So before this, we actually had like a lot of success in corporate wellness. We had like 4 or 5 accounts throughout Miami that was either doing like, group fitness yoga, massage on site. We had one in Doral, one in Fort Lauderdale, one in West Palm, and then another one in Coral Gables. And all of that stuff died when COVID hit. So, a whole revenue stream for us just like went kaput, So really like trying to figure out how we can double down on the aspect of the PT and the strength training and trying to mesh them together as much as possible. And then building systems to making sure that once we bring the people in, what's their customer journey, for lack of a better term, like what does the space look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What happens when they first get in? What happens when they leave? What kind of music are we playing? Down to the T of like, hey, it's the last 10 minutes of the session, and it's a strength training client. We're going to give them a towel with a certain type of essential oils in it, and we'll stretch them to the last 10 minutes so they feel good before they leave. So I think doubling down on like operations to where there is no question about what is happening next. And then also just like the marketing side of like propriety. If you give a big quality product, the word of mouth aspect of things is going to happen regardless of what you do, So if you go to a good restaurant, do you need to see an ad to be like, oh, I went to such and such last week and they had the best steak I've ever had in my life? No, right? It just ends up happening organically. But yeah, besides that, marketing, I mean, you can look at it from a couple different fronts. You can look at it from the online presence. You can look at it from the word of mouth, or you can look at it from like a guerrilla marketing standpoint, right? So, let's say you cranked like your hat, for example, or type of bird. You can hand out 1,000 hats on the street, or you can hand out 1,000 hats in local gyms. And eventually, if someone likes the hat, they'll wear it, and it's free marketing for you, right? So we did some stuff like that in like equinoxers. We did stuff like that in like different high-end gyms that are kind of like our clientele because we're a cash-based practice, and use that to kind of fuel what we were doing for later on systems where we're, partnering with gyms, with trainers in those gyms, we're partnering with other PTs in those gyms, or we look at it more as like a co-compete as opposed to, hey, I'm opposing you, as opposed to, what happened to me when I was working out of that therapy clinic.
Absolutely. No, it sounds like you took everything and paid so much attention to detail throughout the process, literally everything from when they walk in your door to when they leave the door to how you partner with other individuals and beyond that way. And even just the point of your business plan being 80 pages and then rewriting the whole thing. I mean, I think a lot of times when people think of business plan, they think of the Chat GPT generated 5-page thing, but it's not enough. You really have to go the extra mile and you really have to dig in deep. And I think when you do that, to your point, you mentioned before that failure was not an option for you guys during COVID. Failure does not become an option when you've literally outlined an entire path, an entire strategy, and you've accounted for so many different bumps along the road that way. I'm not sure if this is the technical term, but I call that plan a pre-mortem, in the sense that you have outlined anything and everything that could cause your business to fail, that could cause it to pass and just never come back around. And if you do that correctly, all you have to do afterwards is follow the steps and do the work. Now, obviously, there's things that can happen along the way that throw you off a little bit, but for the most part, you should have hopefully accounted for a majority of those ahead of time. And then it just becomes a matter of putting in the work and the effort and the sweat equity that it takes in order to get there that way. And obviously, no business is successful without that element of sweat equity. I think there's very few, if any, overnight success stories anymore. I know that's the story people love to hear, but it just doesn't happen too often. What was the cost of your success in business that way for yourself that way? I'm picturing a lot of late nights, early mornings, and just time away from the things that you probably would rather be doing. But, I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. So I started my career off in coaching. So I coached in college. I coached in the NFL, and then I ended up coming back to Miami to start like a fitness business. So I was coaching at a local high school for 4 years prior to, and by the time we got brick and mortar in the Gables, I basically had to like cancel that. Please, too much time. I was a beach coordinator for the local high school team that I graduated from. So that was one thing that had to like grow up in the window because of the fact that, the amount of money that was for the initial deposit, for the security, the first and last, the amount of money for the equipment, the build out, all that stuff. It was too much riding on that. And I was like, I could have afforded taking more time away from the business to go coach high school, and not demeaning that at all. It's more of just like this. It was a sacrifice that I know I needed to make if I wanted my business to do what it needed to do. The second thing is understanding when to delegate and how to. So I like to look at it more as a sense of like, there's three different spots for a business owner that they can work, right? Like they can work in the business as a technician, they can work on the business as an entrepreneur, and they can work and manage the business as a manager, right? And depending on which hat you put on, you can find your business kind of growing more in a sense to a certain light, right? So like you might start off as a technician, you're really good at what you do, and that'll carry you to a certain growth. And then after a certain point in time, you as a practitioner, you can't do anymore. It's impossible. Like you have no more time in the day, right? Then you're like, okay, well, let me hire some people underneath me, delegate. And then now you become a manager. Now I'm managing all these people to do what I was doing before. And, maybe you put some systems in play, but if you don't put systems in play, all of the managers is going to be really difficult to keep up with. Now you've managed to a certain point in time where you can't manage anymore. Now you need to hire somebody to be that manager. Now you can slip up and say, okay, like as an entrepreneur, what system do we need to put in place so that it is foolproof, so that the business is a business and not just a job, right? Like if you're working 60-hour weeks and you can't say you own the business, like you don't own a business, you own a job, right? If you're managing and the management is taking you into the wee hours of the night and early in the morning, you still don't own a business. You own a job. Your job is managing clients or people or whatever the situation is. So just looking at it from that standpoint, it's like understanding, hey, at some point in time, if you want to grow, you have to delegate. And for you to feel comfortable delegating, you have to put in systems in play to make sure that works for you.
I think that's something that you learn over time, or at least it took me a little time to learn it that way. Because initially I was trying to do a lot of things myself. And, there's still that part of me that wants to just do it all myself. It's just kind of like this, I don't know, innate nature that some of us have that way, where we'd rather just lay on the sword and let other people walk over it instead of watching someone else do it for us. But sometimes the best things for all of us are when we allow others that opportunity to step up, to take charge, to lead, and so on that way. And it's been something I've been trying to navigate more so now than ever as I transition out of my clinical role here in Maryland and prepare to move to, North Carolina area that way. It's like, I'm trying to ingrain some of the different habits that I saw lead to success and some of the different frameworks that we were highly successful with, and get our kind of next crop of PTs to understand those things, apply those, and then add their own twists and spins on it. But if you can't do that, then that light is going to burn out, unfortunately. Growth doesn't occur by accident. It occurs because there's someone carrying the torch at all times, and it continues to move forward. The second you stop moving forward is the second that progress stalls. And obviously, you guys going on two to three locations, like that's not by accident. The success we've had here in Maryland and Delaware is not by accident. It takes a lot of effort and energy to make that stuff happen. What has been, in your opinion, the key success factor for you all from a growth standpoint? And what's gone into that process of, as you mentioned, acquiring literally the real estate where you're putting locations, not renting, not, sharing space. Like, you guys own the space that way, which I find is very unique amongst a lot of the people in this space lately. What's that process been like for you? And, do you have anything that you would do different in that kind of, relation to owning the space as opposed to maybe renting or leasing that way?
In regards to real estate, I think leasing is good to test markets, but leasing for long periods of time is like adapt to a business, right? So eventually, like markets do, they go up. If you're leasing for a certain amount of money, once that lease is over, whether it's 5, 10, however many years you negotiate, it'll be higher once you renegotiate the number. And one of two things are going to happen. You're going to have to increase whatever that price point is and pass that down to your customers, and or you go out of it because your customers can't afford it. So actually, I was watching, have you heard of the movie The Founder? So The Founder is basically how McDonald's got started. And it's with Michael Keaton. He plays Ray Kroc. And how basically McDonald's started off as like a small burger and fry shop. But before they were a burger and fry shop, they were a full-on diner. So they had like roast beef, meatloaf, all these things. They had plates. They had, and the guy audited his business and was like, hey, we're spending all this money on all these extra things that people are not ordering. Most people order fries, burgers, and shakes. So let's cut all that. And we're only going to have these 3 things to offer. And we'll set everything up. We'll get rid of the plates. We'll have paper bags, and we'll basically just have people ready to order in 30 seconds. So they talk about their operations. They talk about how they cut all the extra stuff as a business, and they became extremely efficient on how they made their money, and their business blew up. Everybody loved it. It was really easy. They really started a fast food chain for all of the things that you see today, right? Wendy's, all of the extra fast food chains. So not that saying that fast food is good. What I'm saying is that the business model and the operation side of things inspired me from the movie, that when I was opening and creating our second location to operate out of when we owned, it was like, okay, well, how do I want the flow of the space to go? There's a cute scene in that movie where they're on a tennis court and they're like, okay, well, how do we build the burger? And they have this really small, tight space. And it's like, okay, well, this is where we put pickles. This is where we toast the buns. This is where we lay the burgers down. I did kind of the same thing, not on a tennis court, but on an iPad, and like looked at, okay, this is where we want to put our squat racks. This is where we want to put our suspension system. This is where our turf's going to go. This is our front desk, or however which way we wanted to look. And like I said, smell, taste for Old Bull. But truly what makes McDonald's great is the fact that they are a real estate company. They are not, like, they sell burger and fries, but truly where they make most of their money is from the real estate. So as a small business owner, understanding markets go up and understanding if I can capture whatever the market is at a certain point in time, I can either build passive income and or pay myself the thing that I have to pay the most besides my employee each month, right? So, do the math. You audit yourself. How much money am I spending in rent every month? Okay, let's look at it. Let's say it's $100,000 for the year, right? You get done with 10 years of paying a rent of $100,000 a year, you're at $1 million. If you bought a building earlier in that process, you would possibly be at a point in time where you own most of that building, and it probably accrued interest and equity, So for me, I was like, okay, well, yeah, like it's not about the number of how high it is. It's about more of like what you keep, right? And for me, it was like, okay, this is a no-brainer. Like I need to figure out a way to make that happen. So there's all these really good programs for small businesses that you can use actually through the SBA. It's something called the 504 business plan, 504B business plan, where you only have to put down 10% of cash to close. The other 50% gets financed through a bank, and then the other 40% gets pushed out between 25 years. So the bank side for 50% is 10 years. And the 40% side through the SBA is 25 years. So it makes it really favorable for the business owner because you have less cash flow coming out of your pocket. You have more time and effort behind something that you actually do technically own. And if, something crazy happens and you do have to shut down your business for some reason, at least you have the sale of the building that you can fall back on, as opposed to a lease where it's like, okay, well, yes, we're done. We're just going to close up shop, and I still owe X amount more on my lease for X amount of time. You know what I mean? For whatever you negotiated. So for me, it was a no brainer to, do what I can and then go from there hours where that made sense. And that the number doesn't matter as much because I'm trying to stay in business for as long as possible.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And to your point, you started to think about things from the business eye, if you will, instead of the consumer eye, because you used the McDonald's example, and a lot of people just view McDonald's as a place to get food, not a real estate empire. Same is true with something like Starbucks, right? From the pricing psychology that they use for their coffee, all the way up to the fact that I think they operate more as a bank than a coffee house. I mean, I believe the stat was that they had over $1 billion worth of, money that people just gave them as an interest-free loan through gift cards and balances on accounts and stuff in the year 2016. I don't know what the number is now, but I'd imagine it's quite higher that way. So you start to realize that to succeed in business, it's not just about doing the thing that people know you for. It's not just about selling coffee, selling burgers, or even providing training and rehab services. It's about all the bigger picture stuff that you see below the water in the iceberg, if you will. People see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't see all the things going on underneath there. And one of the many things I think you have done such a really good job of just making yourself very unique and really just in a league of your own is you integrate everything successfully from a business standpoint, whether that be the social media front on, Instagram, YouTube, you guys do seminars and, the Training Goals Healthcare series. And on top of that, you also have Pilates and gymnastics and so many different things in-house that a lot of places don't all have under one roof that way. What was that kind of process like for you all, kind of integrating 6, 8, 10 different streams all into one main thing, if you will?
Yeah. So for me, when I was a technician, I was working more in the business. I wanted to recreate myself as a technician in different coaches. So if you're hiring the same type of person that you are, it's not a good thing. You always want to hire other people that have the same passion, but like have different skill sets, right? So, we have pelvic floor PT, like you mentioned, gymnastics, Pilates people. I try to find people that are as passionate as I am in the field that they're interested in. And truly, like, it's really a lot about how teams work together for each location. So if it's a situation where, I wouldn't sit down and have like a beer with someone, like I will hire them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of what we do is like conversational, like, can I talk to you? Can it be a situation where, when you're working with a client, are you entertaining enough to where they're enjoying their session and also giving them the result that they need? And then like, how do you work with other people in the space? Like if there's a lot of egos in place and a lot of people don't really jive with each other or they kind of repel, like it's not going to work well for the interaction for the client. And, like it's almost like everybody has to be like on the same playing field when it comes to like, charisma and, in that sense. So for me, offering more services and highlighting the people that are in our space is really just a testament to how passionate they are. And truly finding passion is when you bring something up to someone and they can talk about it for 30 minutes, an hour straight and never change the subject or just talk about what that is, So we try to hire well in that sense. And, as a company, we're designed to be people centric for the people that work in our space. We don't try to run anybody into the ground. Again, I came from a clinic that looked like that, and the turnover was so high that it was like, I was embarrassing. And then on top of that, like no one was happy, and I think patients feel that, like clients feel that if everybody in the space is angry at each other or there's a lot of animosity, it doesn't make for a great workplace or a place that people are excited to go to for the rest of the day, So, we try to keep that as lighthearted as possible, have fun in our spaces. And I mean, even talk to any of our, the people on our team, I think everybody's like really happy with the team that we put together. I think high performing people like other high performing people. And if they have somebody that's running them down, it like sucks energy from them and everyone else around them. So it kind of works if you just have people that are building each other up, that same drive to be excellent.
Absolutely. I mean, the saying rising tides raise all the ships in the water holds true at the end of the day. And the more people you have elevating the tide, the higher you're all able to reach together that way. And I think that's what it's all about. It's getting there together. It's not just doing it for one person or, one thing that way. It's really about being a little bit more collective and getting everyone involved in that process of self-betterment and self-improvement that way. And I think the more you ingrain that kind of culture, that it's not about me, it's about we, which sounds cliche in nature, but it's true at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you have to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, look, this isn't just about me. This is far bigger than me. And I think the more you realize just how big and impactful your reach can become when you combine efforts with others on the same path and the same mission, the better off it's going to be. I mean, I just think about that combination of you and Katie that you brought up earlier that way. It's like two very similar, like-minded individuals, very dedicated and driven and possessing all those amazing qualities that you outlined a second ago. And you put the two together and look what happens, right? It just, great things are destined to happen when you do that. And if you don't have that kind of like common respect and common mission and just that ability to embrace that kind of journey together, I don't think you get the outcomes that you're after. I don't think that anyone is able to succeed on their own that way. And I like to think that, at least for me, I came out of school thinking that, it's like, oh my gosh, like I got this, I learned all this stuff, I got these letters, like we're good to go, let's rock. And then I very quickly realized just how much I wasn't prepared for and wasn't able to do on my own. So I think the sooner you learn that you need others around you, and to your point, surrounding yourself with the right people, the better off you're going to be across your entire journey, and the better off they're going to be because they've got you to lean on. What's your general advice that you give to other individuals who are looking to kind of step into this space? Or maybe they're starting a business, or the other thing I hear a lot is they've started a business and things just aren't going so well for them. They had this kind of idea where they were going to be, and they're just nowhere close to it at this time. What's your general advice to those that are kind of, still walking through the mud that can sometimes bog you down in business that way?
Yeah, I think every business starts off as a product, right? And the better you are and the better you can make that product, whether it's education or, looking at, different things or listening to your customers about what they want and finding a better way to capture value. Because that's all business is creating value and capturing value monetarily, right? Whatever monetary gain you want from that situation. The better that product is, the easier it's going to be for you to get more people on board for what you have going on. So the biggest thing is self-betterment, leadership in your own right. Become a student and always stay a student. Like personally, I'm constantly reading books to this day about business or fitness or training, what's out there, what kind of ISOs people are doing, strength deficit, like all of those things are still really big in me because I fall in love with the technician side of things. I fall in love with making other people stronger, faster, better for their sport. But at the same time, I can still take that hat off and put on a business cap or a business suit and shake some hands and talk to some bankers and try to figure out what makes sense there too. So I think the biggest thing in that regard too is really just like never stop learning. And then two, like if when in doubt, just, keep your faith in God, bro. Like there's a lot of business has a lot to do with faith. You're not going to see it all, you just have to trust that it's going to get done and put in the work to get it done.
Absolutely. No, I think that's great advice, Frankie. And I realize we could probably talk about this all day long. There's just so much that goes into this element of business in this kind of healthcare sector, if you will. And obviously, you guys at Old Bowl are just doing such a phenomenal job, in my opinion. And I can't wait to see your continued growth that way. Is there anything we missed or any other kind of closing thoughts that you had that we didn't get to discuss today?
I think we covered it all. I mean, the only other thing I would say, is, I I mean, if you're ever in Miami, definitely come check us out. We'd love to work out with you and connect. I think this business is filled with really big egos, and I feel like once we become more collective and more hive mindish, to where everybody's like not competing with each other, but like you know being one in unison, kind of like a hive mind situation. I think it's going to change healthcare for the better, and that's really like our mission statement. We definitely want to make sure that the healthcare system is better for all. So, yeah, I'd love to connect. Come by if you get a chance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And obviously, you guys have a number of different online offerings as well that way, whether that be from like a educational standpoint or virtual training. And I think there's even like a nutritional partnership that y'all have with Gifted Performance as well for people who are trying to find out more about y'all online that way. Where can they find you at, Frankie?
Yeah, www.bullbulathletics.com. We have all of our links on the top part of the page, including a seminar that we're actually going to open up to the public, I think, in the next 4 to 5 hours in New York, part one and part two of Strength is Healthcare. And then we have local seminars in Miami, like kettlebell, barbell, and then body weight training for coaches that want more application. In that regard, they can just send a message through our website and we'll take care of them. But yeah, that's where you can find it.
That's awesome. We'll link to all of that in the description below. That way, if you didn't quite catch it, you can just click there and see everything that Frankie and the entire team at Old Bull is up to. And obviously, keep up with all the continued growth and success that they're going to have. Frankie, this was a really amazing conversation. I really appreciate your insights and your time today, man.
I appreciate you, man.